therefore, let me say that the continuous assessment component is an attempt by the Ministry of Education to change the assessment format for the SEA. The SEA in its traditional format is a summative exam, very high stake summative exam, meaning it is that one exam that is done at the end of a child's primary school career. The attempt by the Ministry of Education to introduce a continuous assessment program is an attempt to shift the focus from the summative approach to the assessment to a formative approach to the assessment. That is, where you actually conduct assessments in the non-traditional examination mode throughout the course of the child's schooling, and you look at the non-exam approaches, because it has always been said that that one single exam should not be really used to define a child's future in terms of his educational pursuits. You can have so many reasons why a child may not perform well in that exam, and therefore we should not be excluding students based on that single exam. Therefore, in principle, TTUTA has no problem with the philosophy and the concept behind the introduction of the continuous assessment component. In fact, more than 10 years ago, we have been engaged in discussions with the Ministry of Education, recognizing the need to de-emphasize that summative exam, that is SEA. We have been talking about a continuous assessment process, commonly referred to as CAP. And in fact, several years ago, we signed off an agreement in terms of the introduction of CAP. We were looking at broadening the base of the assessment to introduce assessment from Standard 3, spread over a period of time, incorporating those non-traditional approaches to assessment. It was supposed to have been in the traditional subject areas. Unfortunately, despite the fact that we arrived at agreement after lengthy discussions with the Ministry of Education on the introduction of that continuous assessment program, CAP, they were tardy. They were supposed to have put in place a number of prerequisites for the successful implementation of CAP, and those prerequisites were not in place, and therefore CAP has since been on hold. Lo and behold, we have the new Minister of Education coming and introducing CAP with a slightly different name, Continuous Assessment Component. It's the same thing, but the difference here is that he is broadening the range of subjects that are to be taught and examined at the primary school level. We, again, have no problem with that, because we do feel that we should be educating the whole child. We should be educating the child from the cognitive, the psychomotor, and the affective learning domains. That is, we must not only look at the child in that traditional sense of education that we've been accustomed to. We must recognize that some children are strong in the cognitive learning domains and they will do well in your traditional paper and pencil tests. But many students are also strong in the psychomotor learning domain, and they do well when it comes to using their hands. They would prefer to engage in activities that are more physical in nature. They are good at sports. There are some children that are good at, in the affective learning domain, they are good at the what I call the soft subjects, visual arts, dance, drama, music, etc. They may not be strong in the cognitive area, and they may not be doing well. And therefore, we need, if we are talking 21st century education, if we are talking about Trinidad and Tobago attaining, developed nation status, we must be talking about developing our human capital in a comprehensive and complete sense. We must be talking about educating and developing the entire human being. We must be talking about education that will enable each human being to realize his or her maximum human potential. It mustn't be education only with the sole purpose of persons getting a job. It must be ensuring that persons are educated so that they can add value to their own lives, they can become problem solvers, they can be critical thinkers, they can add value to the society in which they live, they can live in harmony with each other, they will have that healthy respect for each other, and we can therefore forge and create that developed society that we are striving for. And it is against that context that we have absolutely no problem with broadening the curriculum base at the primary school level. We've been talking about it for the longest while. And of course, if you're broadening the base, then you have to, of course, broaden your range of assessments as well. Where we have a fundamental problem is the approach that the MOE is using to make this reform possible. We have been saying from the very outset that we are fundamental stakeholders in the process of education. We are the practitioners, we are the ones who are out there in the field, and we have that valuable experience based on the fact that we are the ones who have to carry out the reform that you are attempting. Therefore, if you want us to buy into it, if you want us to be a part and parcel of it, you want us to successfully implement the reform, we should be a part of the reform process itself, the conceptualization processes. It mustn't just be a reform that we are told to implement. And that is where we've been complaining bitterly, as you would have heard in the various media reports. We've been asking for the Ministry of Education to consult with us so that together we can map out and we can create our implementation plan. In principle, we expressed agreement with the reform that you're attempting, but we never had any discussions whatsoever in terms of how this reform is going to become a reality. We have lots of ideas, we have a lot of experience in that area. We have unfortunately witnessed too many great ideas fall by the wayside because of poor implementation. The Ministry of Education has a unenviable track record of poor implementation, and unfortunately too many great ideas fall by the wayside as a result. We don't want that to happen anymore, and we are saying to the MOE, talk to us, let us sit down and engage in that kind of dialogue so that when this thing comes into being, it will become successful, it will be properly implemented. It mustn't be this high-handed, rushed manner that the reform is being really implemented with.
TTUTA's press release indicated that teachers were required to attend training on weekends and on holidays. How did the ministry come up with that? Did they advise TTUTA of this?
We were given a circular from the Ministry of Education that outlined the various dates that the teachers are supposed to report to these various centers for the training to implement this continuous assessment component. And when we examined the schedule carefully, lo and behold, we recognized that included in that schedule were weekends and public holidays. However, when we decided to alert the national community about that development and we informed our members, we asked our members, in fact, not to comply with that request by the Ministry of Education because it's an unlawful instruction. The Ministry of Education recognized apparently that it was an error on their part and has since changed the schedule to exclude those weekend and public holiday dates.
How has the implementation plan in fact proceeded given this disagreement and distinct point of views? In other words, has the training program been attempted and what has happened?
Okay, the training program is unfolding despite the protestations of TTUTA, despite the fact that many of our members have heeded our call not to go to the training program. The training program is proceeding. Some people have been attending. So some persons have been indicating to us that they have attended the programs, but they have also indicated to us that having attended the programs, they can now understand clearly where we were coming from, because we've always maintained that the program is inadequate in depth and scope. Because you are broadening the curriculum, because you are attempting to change a culture of assessment in the primary school from being essentially summative to a combination of formative and summative, you are talking about changing a mindset on the part of teachers, parents, and students. And the combination of those two changes that you are attempting will take a lot more than 3 weeks of training. And that is one of the things we've been talking about. That because SA is such a high stake exam, you need to have an approach that is a lot more structured, that is a lot more in depth, that is a lot more extensive, and that is spread over a greater period of time. The measure cannot be implemented in September as the Ministry of Education is advocating. That is a reality. And we know if they continue on the course that they are proceeding, they will come to the rude awakening come September that the system is simply not ready to accommodate that kind of fundamental change that they are talking about. Unfortunately, we are hearing that another phase of training is now being contemplated, and that, of course, to us will indicate a recognition on the part of the Ministry of Education that the initial training that was being attempted has not been as successful as they had anticipated, and that would be mainly due to the fact that our members heeded our call and did not go to the training. So now we're hearing talk of another round of training being formulated for those who did not benefit from the training in the first round. We continue to hold fast to our position, and we are continuing to call for dialogue between the Ministry of Education and us on the issue.